Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Fincham's Fireside Follow-Alongs. Today, we are going to be finishing up Pedro's Journal. It seems like you guys have liked this book, although there seems to be a little difference in the way some of you are viewing Christopher Columbus. Remember that if you guys are going to say that he is a nice man from this book, show me the evidence for that. What makes you say that? And if you were going to say that he is a mean man, what is the evidence for that? What makes you say that? Today, we're going to start off on page 86, but before we do that, I kind of want to go back through and do a short recap of what's happened so far. So, if you recall, Captain Columbus and his men were in search of a better route to get to India. Instead, they end up on the other side of the world in North America, and they don't know that. They think that they are in India, which is why they're calling them the Indians, right? So the natives, the people who lived there before, met Christopher Columbus and his crew, and what did Christopher Columbus plan to do? He planned to kidnap 6 of them and bring them back to Spain. He also noticed them wearing gold. And it seems like, now I didn't say this outright, but it seems like they want that gold, and that they're going to do what they can to take it. Also, the natives were swimming up and rowing up to the ship to meet Columbus and his men, and they ended up having to jump off to escape because it was becoming clearer and clearer that this man right here, Christopher Columbus, had something else in mind apart from just exploring. So the natives, as you see here, began to arm themselves with spears, knives, bow and arrows, and put war paint on themselves. So they are ready to protect their land. So we are going to start on page 86. But before we do that, I kind of want to review the question of the day for you. There is one question, and here it is. On page 86 through 87, why do the crew members conclude that they have not found a western route to Asia after all? So remember, they're looking for a route to get to India, right, in Asia. So that's why they headed out into the ocean. They came across a landmass, which is North America, and they assumed it's Asia. Why in the story do they conclude that, hey, we haven't found the western route to Asia after all? What makes them conclude that? Show me some text evidence for that as well. If you guys have not had a chance yet, please hop on and take the weekly reading quiz. It's only a few questions, but make sure that you guys are doing that after today's reading. And without further ado, let's move on to page 86, Pedro's Journal.
December 13th.
December 13th. It is difficult to keep a journal now that we are so busy, traveling from island to island and up and down rivers and in out of harbors. There are no longer endless empty jaunts into the western sky, but one thing has not changed. The crew continues to grumble. They are saying this is not Asia at all, that this whole trip has been a costly failure. They say that they will be laughed at when they finally return home. There are no silks, no treasures, and just tiny trinkets of gold. And we will bring back are spools of rough cotton thread, a few rustic spears, and some natives who grow quieter and thinner with each day they spend on board the Santa Maria. Columbus goes on naming everything he touches. He sees a cape of land and he says, I christen you Cabo de la Estrella, or Hail Cabo de Elefante. I name you Cabo de Cinquin, or Isla de la Tortuga. And you I name Puerto de San Nicolas. I am surprised he doesn't name the birds as they fly by. Every time his feet touch land, he thrusts across into the sand and claims it for the king and queen of Spain. So, let's break this down a minute. So the men are starting to realize, hey, this is not Asia. We are in somewhere different. We're in somewhere else, right? The reason why they might think that is because maybe some of them have seen a person from China or a person from, Korea or Japan or something like that, and they look different than somebody from North America at this time. Also, there's no silk. If you remember, we have read about the Silk Road. Silk was a huge commodity coming out of China, and they don't see any evidence of silk anywhere near them. So that's another clue that, hey, we may not be in Asia after all. Now, going back to Columbus, he is naming everything that he sees. He plants this giant cross into the sand, and he claims it for the king and queen of Spain. So he is claiming land as his own, land that people are already living on, right? Some of these words up here in Spanish, I know that elefante means elephant. Isla de la Tortuga, I think that means island of the turtle. So he is just naming these things and claiming them just right in the moment that he sees them for the first time. What do you guys think about that? Is it no big deal? Does he have the right to do that? Is he out of line? What do you guys think? Also, they ended up getting some of the natives on their ship, right? They're growing quieter and thinner each day. If they're being extremely quiet and they're losing weight, maybe they're not eating that well, what does that tell you about how they're being treated or how they might feel? What does that say to you guys? All right, and we're going to go on to page 87. The natives no longer greet us with gifts and song. Now, when they see us, they run. I am glad for this. Except yesterday, 3 sailors ran after them and brought back to the ship a most beautiful young girl. Columbus wanted to talk to her and convince her that we are harmless and wish only to trade. There seemed to be an instant tenderness between her and the other native women on board, whom I've written of before. She wanted to take the women with her when she left. Columbus refused, of course, telling her to go back to her people and tell them he means no harm. The women touched hands and spoke to each other in quiet whispers. Once she was gone, the captain turned to me and said, "Did you see the gold ring in her nose?" Next paragraph. The next day, he sent a party to search for her in her village, and they found the village, but it had been abandoned. The fires were still warm, but not a soul was tending them. Soon, they found people hiding and persuaded them to come out. They reported they even saw the beautiful girl on the shoulders of her husband. But when they returned to the ship, they did not bring gold or silks, more blessed parrots. So, the native woman, she comes on board, and Columbus is saying, look, so the people are running when they see the Columbus and the men now. So instead of greeting them and giving them gifts and singing, they run away. What does that tell you about Columbus and his men? Does it mean that they're being nice? Does it mean that they're good? I don't know. So they have some women on board the Santa Maria, some natives. This woman, the beautiful young girl, she wants to take the women with her when she leaves. Columbus says no. But he's also saying, hey, we mean no harm, right? All we want to do is trade. Do you guys believe that? I want to know your thoughts on that. If you don't believe him, why would he lie? What are some reasons that he might lie? I want to know what you guys are thinking about this so far. And Pedro seems like he's happy. He's glad. I'm glad for this, he says. He's glad that the natives are running away from Columbus and his men. Why do you think that is? Why would he be glad that the natives are running away from Columbus and his men? Again, we have another instance where Mr. Columbus, did you see the gold ring on her in her nose? He's noticing gold. What do you think that means? What is he willing to do to get it? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. And we're going to go on to page 88.
January 28th.
How wonderful this feels to be heading home. We almost made one extra stop. One of the natives on board told the captain of an island on our way where only women live, where it is believed men come only part of the year and then are kicked out along with boy children who are old enough to leave their mothers. It was not the women the captain was interested in, but in the fact that this may be the island Marco Polo wrote about in his voyage to the Orient. And this would be proof Columbus needs to show we did indeed make the Indies. And here's a picture of the Santa Maria. So, now they're heading home. When they get there, what are the king and queen of Spain going to demand of Columbus? Well, they're probably going to demand some sort of riches, right? Which it doesn't sound like he was able to get a ton of. And they're going to want proof that he was in Asia. Can he provide that proof? Unfortunately, probably not. Now, Christopher Columbus has shown that he is willing to lie already, right? He lied to his men about how far they had traveled. Do you think that he would be willing to lie to the king and queen? To try to trick them into believing that he had indeed found a route to Asia? If he lies and says that he did find a route to Asia, what happens when somebody else tries to take that route? Because now everybody would think, hey, there is a route to Asia that's quicker. Let's go there. How might that work out? All right, and we're going to go to page 89. Here's another drawing of the Santa Maria. He even turned in this direction for 2 leagues. But when he saw how disappointed the men were, how even the thought of an island full of women did not distract them from their desire to go home, or their uneasiness about the leaking boats, he turned backwards towards our homeland. And now the ships roll before the winds that grow cooler and cooler with each passing day. So the men are tired. They want to go home, right? They're done being at sea. They don't want to go to some island. They just want to go home. So Christopher Columbus at first was like, no, let's go check this island out. But after they had traveled in that direction, he saw how disappointed the men were. So apparently the boats are leaking. They're like, look, we just want to go home. If he were to ignore his crew, if he said, I don't care, I'm the captain, we're going to this island. Doesn't matter what you guys think. Doesn't matter what you feel. I'm the captain. Would that be risking a mutiny? I don't know. And we're going to go to the final page, page 90. February 2nd. Tonight is the night of the full moon, and once again we are traveling through a throbbing meadow of seaweed, this time at a good speed with gentle winds pushing us along. Earlier, I was not able to sleep for the eerie noise that seaweed brings, the soft, enchanted swish against the hull, like a mother's hand soothing a baby's head. So I went above and found the captain alone on deck, lit by the moon. His log entries these last days are concerned with the miles we make and in the direction we sail, constantly plotting and striving to find his way back to Spain. I was uncertain at first what to do, but finally I came up beside him. I don't think he had ever looked to see who I was, when he pointed off toward the northeast and said, I believe there are islands off in that quarter. When we come back on our second voyage, I will make certain we visit them. A second voyage. Suddenly, the wind was too cold for me, the moon too bright. Below, I wrapped myself tight in my blanket and struggled to write. The inkhorn in one hand, the quill in the other. I try to imagine myself growing to manhood on ships such as this, and I cannot. Oh, I cannot. So here's Pedro writing his final entry. And Christopher Columbus, not even done with his first voyage, and he's already planning a second one, right? Now, was this trip by Christopher Columbus a triumph, or was it a trouble? Was there a little bit of both? What do you guys think? I'm going to reread our question for today. And there's only one for today. It is on page 86 and 87. Why do the crew members conclude that they have not found a western route to Russia after all? Or, I'm sorry, not to Russia, to Asia. So I'll read that one more time. Sorry, guys. On page 86 and 87, why do the crew members conclude that they have not found a western route to Asia after all? So where in the text does it say that the men have realized, hey, we haven't found a route to Asia at all? Where does it say that? What's your text evidence for it? And that is the end of the story of Pedro's journal. As always, I would love to hear what you guys think about this. What do you think about Pedro? What do you think about Christopher Columbus? What do you think about the voyage? How do you feel the natives were treated? Was it a triumph? Was it more of just trouble? And as always, you guys can take a look at our ELA questions and tasks section of today's reading and all of the other readings on our newsletter. And that's going to be it for today. I would love to hear what you guys think. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.